Have you ever wondered why some of our favorite stories seem so familiar? Well, it might be because of the monomyth. Welcome back to Writer's Theory. I'm James Winterthorne, and in this video, I will carry on the plot structure series that I begun last time with the arc plot. Now, the arc plot is a very encompassing statement. It really just infers that you're going to have rising action up to the point of a climax and then a resolution or some kind of reconciliation at the end. This can cover a lot of different styles of plot, and we're going to see some similarities in what we're going to talk about today with the monomyth and the arc plot. They both tend to build in action to a climax and then have a resolution at the end. So today I want to talk about one of the most common plot structures that we see, especially in movies today. So I can name any number of, especially adventure-based movies, and identify how similar those movies are to what's known as the hero's journey or the monomyth. This comes from Joseph Campbell's work in Hero with a Thousand Faces. If you have not read this book, or if you're unfamiliar with it, I would highly encourage you to check this out. This has been around for a while, and in it, Campbell studied stories from around the world and found common threads that were in stories from different cultures that should have had no contact with each other, but we have a similar storytelling style across cultures. So a very interesting read. He breaks it down into a common thread and distills that further into what is called the hero's journey, which he called the hero's journey, which is trademarked. It's a trademarked term. This was never meant to be a structure for plot. When he wrote it, it was more of an observation. It was more like, aren't we more similar than dissimilar? And look at our stories and how closely related they are, even though we had no contact with each other, or these cultures had no contact with each other, they still had a very similar structure in their storytelling. It's a very fascinating anthropological look at storytelling throughout humankind. So when it comes to utilizing this, or how has this become so pervasive in our storytelling now? Well, there's a number of ways, and the book I'm going to reference here, and as I talk about the monomyth and the hero's journey as plot structure, we're going to be looking more closely at the writer's journey from Christopher Vogler. He took the monomyth and made it a more functional plot structure device, something to not really guide our writing, not to necessarily outline with, although it can be used for that, but more to track our progress in the story that we're telling. So maybe we get caught up along the way and we're halfway through and we're not really sure where to go next. This is a great guide for that purpose. So if you haven't read the Writer's Journey by Christopher Vogler, fantastic read. This is geared toward screenwriting versus novel writing, but the same story structure, the same plot structure can be applied to novel writing as well. So what is the monomyth? What is the hero's journey? We basically have a series of events that is very consistent across what a hero would go through on this journey. So the first step is what Vogler calls the ordinary world. I like to call this the status quo. So if you've been through my course N90 Novel Roadmap, I call this the status quo. This is the world as it is before any change happens, before there's even a recognized need for change. We get to see the world as it is. We'll also get to see why change is necessary in the world, and what our characters go through in their existence in this ordinary world. But the ordinary world is the first step of the hero's journey. The hero is then presented with a choice. This is called the call to adventure, maybe the call to action, depending on who's providing their translation or take on this. But the hero is presented with an option to go on this adventure and change the world for the better. Oftentimes, the hero might just go. They might just heed the call and they just go and take this adventure. But more times than not, there is a refusal of the call, which is the third step, refusing the call. This is where the character decides that it'd be easier to not take action. We then see a result of this inaction in that the need for change is presented even stronger, where the hero no longer has a choice, but has to take action. This is usually in the form of called meeting the mentor. So another character is introduced that explains the need for this change and presents what the character must do. So meeting the mentor is the fourth step in the hero's journey. The next step is entering the new world or crossing the threshold. So the character we've seen the character in his normal life. We know that there's change that needs to be taken. A new character has been introduced to prepare the character for the new world. And then the character enters the new world. They cross the threshold. We see this pretty frequently. In Lord of the Rings, we have Frodo and Sam leave the Shire. In The Matrix, Neo takes the red pill. In Star Wars, Luke leaves Tatooine. Very common theme. There's usually a threshold which marks a point at which the character cannot go back. They have entered the new world or crossed the threshold. Next is the fun, exciting part of the story where the character has to learn the rules of the new world. There's a lot of tests put upon them. They make friends, they make enemies. And we call this step test allies and enemies. This is often the meat of the story. This is where a lot of the action takes place. There's a lot of learning on behalf of our characters. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to make friends. They're going to upset some people along the way. We call this tests, allies, and enemies, and our characters go through a lot. Even though this is one step in the 12 steps, we often put a lot of emphasis on this portion because this is where the character learns the most. This is where they're figuring out their place in the world. And then once they have tested themselves, they made friends, they've made some enemies, they're now ready to approach the center conflict. So at the beginning of the story, there was a change that was required in this world. And now they have to make progress toward that change. And they've made friends, they know what they're made of, they're now prepared to get ready for this event. And that's the next step, is called approach the inmost cave. This is often a reprieve as well. So you'll find that there might be action. There might be a lot of action happening. We need a moment to break up and separate the test portion from the actual let's go and take care of business portion. And that is this brief moment called approach the inmost cave. This is a preparation moment. You'll see this often in stories as well. In this case, this is Neo and Trinity deciding to go back into the Matrix to save Morpheus. This is a readying of all the talents and skills and all the friends that have been made, getting ready to tackle the main conflict that's about to happen. The next step is called the ordeal. This is the main crisis that we've been approaching for the whole story. This is where we're going to try to acquire the thing that's going to make the change for the world. This usually takes the place of, or takes the shape of some kind of major conflict. If we're not writing an adventure, this can be the confrontation with a cheating spouse. This can be the exposing of lies of our antagonists. It can be any number of things, but this is the big thing that we've been focused on. This is, we're going to have to go defeat the monster to get the sword that is going to then save the world. So we have a very big conflict and a lot of action happening in the ordeal, and upon which the character will receive a reward. In the Hero of a Thousand Faces, it's called a boon, but it is the reward, it is the prize required to change the world. So the 9th step is receiving the reward and acknowledging what this thing is. Now, this prize can often take the form of something physical, like a weapon, like some kind of magical talisman, or a gift from the gods. It can be any number of things. It can also be a skill or a revelation to the main character, where it's a skill or something learned. We see this a lot in martial arts movies, where the character has been exposed to a technique or a method of fighting that will help later. Even if it's not fully realized, the prize has been acquired. Now that the characters have the reward, they now need to go apply that reward or weapon or whatever it is to the principal conflict. They need to now go change the world with it, and they need to get back home to utilize this new tool. And this step in the journey is called the road back. This is often a fast and exciting chapter in which, if there were any more enemies along the way, that they would have to be contended with. So there's a lot of conflict happening to try to get back to the application of this. There are usually threshold guardians blocking the way. There are lots of forces preventing or trying to prevent the character or the hero from applying the reward to the problem at large. The 11th step, the next step, is generally the climax of the story. So if we're following this as it were a traditional arc plot, we're going to get to the peak now. This is called the resurrection. Why is it called resurrection? So you'll find, especially in mythologies, that the hero must traverse into the underworld to reawaken themselves. The character has to die, either literally or metaphorically. They have to shed their past self. And this happens in the climax, where the character has achieved all that they can achieve, and they need to go through a metamorphosis of such to be able to fully apply the reward to the world. So the character must die and be reborn as the being or character that is able to accomplish the goal. We see this quite frequently. This was literally done in The Matrix. We see moments in Lord of the Rings where Frodo had given up, and we see Galadriel come to him and save him, and he gets to carry on. But a death and a rebirth is often a trait in the hero's journey, and upon which we know that the character has actualized, and they are now we know 100% that they are the one to do this. Neo is the one when he is reborn in the Matrix. After this, the character gets to return. They have solved the problem. They have the solution, and they return to the world to then apply the elixir. They return with the elixir to then change the world as it was recognized in the very beginning. This is a very common theme. In The Matrix, he makes the phone call that he is going to apply what he's learned. Frodo and Sam and the whole crew have saved the world so they can return to the Shire. This is a return to a changed world. What is often the case in this return with the elixir, and we see this frequently, is that because the main character had to die and be reborn, they are forever changed and they are unable to participate in this new world with everyone else. So we often see them either they go off to a new adventure or they have to leave in one fashion or another, whether it's get on the boat with all the magical people, whether it's you have to be that person for everybody and you're now the leader and you can't relax any longer, or it's just in your nature to continue to fight more. Like Odysseus spends 10 years to get home, and he's not home but for a few weeks before going on to the next adventure, despite having been away from home for so long. So the last step is returning with the elixir. So that's the breakdown of the steps of the hero's journey as transcribed and presented by Christopher Vogler. Read both of these books if you haven't. They will inform your storytelling in ways that are very intuitive. You'll recognize plot structure easier in the movies you watch. Just fantastic way to approach storytelling and consuming stories too. Now, how can you use this as a writer? This is one I'm going to leave up to you. Like, everybody's process is different, right? Can you use this as an outline? 100%. We do a similar model in N90 where we follow a 12 chapter outline, but it is just an outline. You don't want to get caught up too much in a structure like this, because it will start to inform your story versus your story being guided by an outline or a structure. So it's easy to get caught in a trap of somebody else's model, but it's a great way to plan out what should come next in your story. And really, as you're writing your story, you'll probably find that you're going to go your own way regardless of what your outline says. But this is a good way to have an idea what story you want to tell. This is a way that people will recognize the structure of your stories. There won't be any surprises. And you get to stay on track. So it's good for all those things. But of course, you're going to write your story no matter what I say, no matter what Joseph Campbell said, no matter what Christopher Vogler says. You're going to write your story, and these are but tools to help you along the way. So before I wrap this up, thank you so much for watching this video. If you're interested in more plot structure videos, I will have more to come. Please like and subscribe. I have other writing related content as well, and I share my own writing journey here on YouTube. If you're interested in writing a novel in 12 chapters in less than 90 days, check out N90 Novel Roadmap. It is a great way to write a novel, learn about the writing process, learn about yourself as a writer, and at the end of it all, you have a novel that you've written. So I'll put a link for that below. So when it comes to the hero's journey, it's kind of fun to watch a movie and see if you can identify the various plot points and see how closely they had followed this model, if they followed it at all. And of course, you can outline with it, but you should definitely read the books where this material comes from. So thank you so much for watching this video. I'm going to get to work on the next plot structure video. So let me know what you thought of this. Leave me a comment below. Let me know what plot structures you really enjoy using. And I'll see you in the next video.